Okay. We'll call our special meeting to order. We will dispense with the pledge. We said at the last meeting. You should just find that. Our one and only item is the referendum presentation. So, board, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as shown.
Motion to approve.
Rebecca on the motion,
I'll second.
Brenda on the second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. So I'm going to now turn this over to Mr. Sampson for the presentation. He has others who are here to offer other information toward that. And I'm going to step aside where I can visualize a little bit better, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Bob. Welcome, everybody. This is our 7 o'clock special meeting presentation of our Levy referendum. I am Jeff Sampson, the superintendent of schools, if you do not know me. As we go through tonight, I'm sure some of you will have questions, but we do have a question and answer period at the end. We are joined here tonight by 3 of our consultants, one from ISG, mechanical and engineering firm, one from Krause Anderson, which is our building contractor, and then one from Ellers Financial, obviously our financial services people. So as we go through this, please mark down your questions and go ahead and come up at the podium at the end and then ask questions. We'll do our best to answer them tonight as well. On February 8th, coming up in a few weeks, the school board is asking the community to decide on 2 questions. And both of those questions we will go through in this presentation. But first, we want to look at a project background and how we got to where we are currently right now. Back in 2019, when I was hired in the fall, one of the first things that we talked about when I was hired was looking at our strategic plan and the age that it was. Currently, the board decided to redo the strategic plan for the district. And with that, the strategic planning process involves stakeholders from the community and obviously the board members and staff from the school. Out of the strategic planning process, there were 5 priorities that came through. 2 of them involving facilities and finances. Laney? Thought if you did.
Over there, I think it's Brenda's. Okay.
Yep, perfect. Am I still live now? No. Laney?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me? Can everybody else hear me?
Okay.
Perfect. All right, I'm back. 2 of the things that came out of those strategic priorities, one dealing with facilities and another dealing with getting our finances straightened out. With the first one, the district engaged with 2 companies, which I mentioned earlier, ISG and Krause Anderson, to do a comprehensive facility assessment of all of our buildings. The study at that time identified the need to update our HVAC systems, address site drainage and repair exterior issues, renovate and expand our CTE spaces to meet the current climate in today's work world, update interior finishes, and also improve our outdoor activity spaces. Once those areas were identified, the district admin team then worked with the consultants to prioritize the projects and define the scope and the cost cost for each, meaning what is the size of each of these projects and areas, and then what is the cost for each. At that time in the fall of 2020, once those prioritized items were listed and the cost was known for each, the district sent out a survey, if most of you remember, to individual households, asking the community to further refine our planning and learn about the needs and have a voice in that planning process. We looked for input on these projects and what should be included and how much of a tax impact the community could support if we did go out for referendum at the time. Once we received that data was presented to the board, and more discussions were had about going out in May of 2021. Obviously, those questions did not pass, and we further refined those needs because they still are needs. We had to go back. We knew that we had to go back, and this is kind of where we are at right now, looking at February 8th with a 2-question ballot coming up. The first question on the ballot is a technology levy. The proposal was for $400,000 a year for 10 years to support technology. Well, what does that mean? There's 3 different areas that this would support. Technology infrastructure, which is a lot of the guts of the technology in all of our buildings, things that you don't really see, if you will. Technology support staff, the staffing that touches the technology throughout our district. And also device replacements. We are a one-to-one school in grades K through 12. And the district also provides maintenance and troubleshooting of any of the issues on the devices. So those are the 3 main areas that $400,000 a year for 10 years to support technology would go to support. A little bit of background. When the district implemented this program about 8 to 10 years ago, they had a healthy fund balance, and so they took money out of our operating account and our savings account, which is undesignated, to help fund the one-to-one program. The state of Minnesota really isn't a good funding partner for these days when we're talking about school funding. And so if you take a look at this slide, and I'll try to make it a little bit bigger so you get a general understanding of that, by us using operating dollars, since about 2003, school districts have not been given the full funding that matches inflation every year since 2003. When you think about it, the average inflation cost per year is about 3%, roughly. Obviously, it's more right now because we're going through a higher inflation time. The legislature is the body of the government that gives us our funding. The last funding cycle, and usually they slap themselves on the back when you give us 2% and 2% over the biennium. And so with that, we're not even matching inflation. And so this graph really shows, since 2003, this gap in some years grows more than others, but it's pretty consistent throughout that time frame. And it's about $639 less per student than what we got in 2003. With 1,100 kids in the district, it's about $700,000 for the funding. Just to give you an idea, this is on our operating side of our budget. Okay, see that, Shelby?
Got it.
Okay. Tax impact. For question number 1. Ellers Financial has identified $225,000 as the average household cost in Canyon Falls. This has been backed up by local realtors saying, yes, that is very close to the average house price in Canyon Falls. So we had 2 people that have clarified that. For question 1, and we'll keep coming back to this $225,000 for consistency. The cost of the impact is $64 a year, or about $5 a month, if you will, for question number 1. So there's an initial $64 increase, and then that stays on your taxes for the next 10 years. Obviously, commercial and industrial costs are a little bit different because of the value of the property. And ag homestead and ag non-homestead are also factored in a little bit differently based on the price per acre. Our website has a tax impact calculator that Ellis Financial has helped us with, and so I do encourage you to go to our website and look at that tax impact calculator to help you figure out your own situation. Some people have more complicated situations, and others has allowed community members to call them directly and answer questions that they may have regarding their own individual situation, and they're more than encouraging for you to do that. If question number 1 is unsuccessful, the school board has already passed cuts in December if question 1 were to be unsuccessful. So come February 9th, the day after the vote, we were going to move on with business as usual. If the bond passes, that is great. If it doesn't pass, we've already made cuts and we're already going to move forward. We know what we're going to do. This was decided because of transparency with our voters in the district, to make sure that they understood what would happen if the question fails. If question number 1 fails, families will need to buy a computer for their child or for school. We will be moving to a bring your own device program. As we mentioned before, currently the district supplies and supports all the student computers. At this point, these computers are all the same, which is very helpful for teaching and accessing resources, if you can imagine. If we had 1,100 different devices coming into the district, about what type of a nightmare that would be. If the levy doesn't pass, the funding to support the purchasing and maintaining of the individual computers would be eliminated. Students would still need to have a computer as part of the regular school supplies. Technology is not going to go away, and so we feel it's important that we still teach students how to be, one, safe using computers, because that is the way of our future, and 2, how to use technology as a tool in the classroom. As I mentioned before, teachers will be challenged that it is likely students will no longer have all the same computers if we do move to this model. If question 1 does not pass, the board has already decided that there will be an elementary Phi Ed position eliminated. And the reasoning behind that is because the budget that the current technology is taken out of is our operational budget. And so for us to further balance our budget and make better choices, we still need to cut down our operational budget. The biggest part of an operating budget is staffing. And so that is the reason why we would need to eliminate more staffing. At that point, elementary Phi Ed would be reduced down to the state minimum. Currently, we have Phi Ed every day of the week for all classes. Going to the state minimum would mean having Phi Ed once every 3 days or once every 4 days, depending on how the schedule shook out. In addition to the Phi Ed being eliminated, we would also need to reduce general supplies even further, not only in the classroom, but also district-wide in many different departments. Question number 2 is your typical school building bond. Bonds are for buildings, levies are for learning. It's a quick way to differentiate between the two. For this, the district is asking the communities to decide on a $7.98 million school building bond to cover the following areas. First of all, heating and cooling system updates. In 2016, there was not enough funding to complete the replacement of the heating systems in the middle school and high school classrooms. These systems are now operating beyond their service life. And what we mean by that is, and I'll show you a little bit here on the map, but the middle school and high school academic wings, just to give you an idea of what sections we are looking at replacing the unit ventilators in and hooking them up to our regular, what's the term, Justin?
Centralized HVAC system.
Centralized HVAC system, thank you. Those units in those classrooms right now are 20 years old approximately. Just after Christmas break, coming back from it, just as a side example here, one of the classrooms in the middle school hallway was 55 degrees one morning, and the classroom directly across the hallway was 85 to 90 degrees, just opposite. And so these systems are starting to fail at this point. And back in 2016, when the board made the decision to put HVAC in actually this area of the building, the bids came in higher than expected, and so they decided to delay implementation of some of the project at that time and move the can down the road, if you will. And so they figured that the unit ventilators at that time were not quite done yet, and they still had life in them. At this point, they're starting to fail, and that's the reason why we're going out and asking the public to help finish off the project. Second area that this number, or this bond covers, is the career and technical ed area, CTE, or shop area, depending on which generation you grew up in. It's our wood shop, metal shop, and auto mechanic shop. These classrooms have not been updated since the building was built in the late 1950s, early 1960s. The space does not allow for the latest equipment, as ceiling heights are too low and they lack appropriate structure and support. They also need updated HVAC systems as well. The basic idea is to move our current metal shop into our wood shop area and combine the both of them to make an advanced manufacturing area to help match what today's trades look like. The auto mechanic shop will be moved into our metal shop area with a small addition just on the outside for the car lift. These obviously would be updated to meet today's standards, especially in the welding area, as those welders have been in that shop area for quite a few years. The next area that's a part of this is the kitchen receiving area. Currently, the school district during the day has to prop doors open in the back of the building to receive food deliveries, which is a security issue for our building. We are looking at taking one of the classrooms in the back, which I'll show you here in a little bit on a map, and putting a doorway on the outside of that classroom and putting a secure door in so that the food deliveries can be dropped off in that area and then picked up by our kitchen staff when they are ready to do that. The next area is the regrading of soil surrounding the schools. In the elementary, we have areas of water that are flowing back toward the building, and if you are a house owner, that is never a good thing to have happen. At the high school here, about half of our road systems empty into our courtyard with no other drainage for that water to go anywhere, and so sometimes what happens is the water comes into our library, if you will, flooding that. That has happened on a few different occasions, which causes more issues, obviously. And then finally, there are 3 sections of roof at the CCC that need to be immediately replaced because they are currently leaking and have a nice big Band-Aid on them for the winter, to try to make it through the winter. So what does this look like from just the middle school, high school area? These areas right in here in classrooms would be the ones that would be hooked up to the centralized HVAC system, and the unit ventilators would be taken out. The current metal shop area would be moved into this area here to create the advanced manufacturing classroom area. This would move into small engines and auto mechanics. This area right here would be the small addition put on for auto mechanics. this room right here, there would be a garage door put on here for the food deliveries with a secure door on this side so that the kitchen staff can come and get them whenever they have time to do that. In the advanced manufacturing space, there would be, the ventilation system would be redone. We had a teacher that retired a few years back saying, yeah, I always knew when they were welcome because the fumes were rerouted into my classroom, it seemed like. So, there'd be some HVAC and lighting in there and then they added to the welding space. Tax impact. Going back to the $225,000 house. Tax impact on a $225,000 house is $24 a year. Obviously, we talked about commercial and industrial and ag homestead versus non-homestead is different. And this bond is a 17-year bond. If question 2 was unsuccessful, and these cuts have already been passed in December, the district would close and sell the Cannon Community Center. I think most of the district knows the value of the community center. At this point, CCC houses the district's early childhood family education program that would be moved to the elementary school, and we would need to figure out spacing for that. Cannon Valley Senior Center would need to find a new location. And the gym in the CCC would no longer be available for the district. If the HVAC system is not replaced and it fails, as it's starting to do right now, we would need to be shifting students into other classrooms and spaces, and we would need to wait for hard-to-find parts that can be located for portions of the system until it's replaced. On the day that those ventilators were failing, we did have to reshift kids around in different classrooms for them to be learning for that hour in a comfortable environment. So with those two tax impacts for those two questions, how do we compare to other districts? We always hear that Cannon Falls taxes are so high. Well, when you look at the school portion of your tax bill, and we go back to this $225,000 house, currently we're paying this right here. These districts are all either touching this or in very close proximity to us. This is where Cannon Falls sits for school taxes, total school taxes, for the $225,000 house. If both questions pass, this will be the addition right here. If you look over here to the right, you have the group average, which is this right here, would still be below the group average. And then the state average, we might be just hovering just above the state average for this. One question that keeps coming up is, why have we used all of our COVID dollars, $1.5 million, on HVAC? And using that toward that cost. First of all, the original COVID dollars that we got for the first year and a half or so were very restricted. We could only use them for PPE, staffing, mitigation strategies, if you will. The third round, which Josh, do you have that? Where did Josh go? What was the approximate amount of that third round we got? Was it about 600,000?
Excuse me, total about 680.
680,000. Was that with the 20%?
20% of that is required for learning loss recovery.
So 20% of that 680,000 was used for learning loss. And so when you pare it down, there's about $500,000 in this third round. But the first rounds were split up, and we had a lot of concerns at that point. Obviously, we didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last. Plus, we had to use a lot of that for staffing to lower class sizes to meet space requirements. So the feasibility of using all of that money on HVAC wasn't really realistic because of the requirements that we had to have from the state at that point. For those of you that are asking questions online about where is all our COVID dollars spent, we update our revenues and expenditures about every other month at our board meetings. And so I think some of you have been coming to board meetings, have probably seen that, but if you haven't, that updated revenue and COVID expenditure list is on our website for those of you that have questions about that. And where we have spent money and are planning on spending money moving forward. We're not out of the pandemic yet, so we still need to have some of that money go back. And there will still be some requirements for that. So where do we vote? Voting date is February 8th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at City Hall in Cannon Falls. There's only one site to vote in the district. It's a combined polling place. If you are going to be on that day and you want to go to absentee balloting is open right now in the district office. Pretty much every day from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday when we have scheduled student days. If you're worried that you might be sick during that time, you can vote early. Obviously, COVID is still around, people get sick. Feel free to stop in and get an application or a ballot to pick up. There's far more information on our school website that I really encourage you to go to, especially to the referendum page on our, which if you, when you go to cannonfallschools.com, click on the referendum link and you will have more information that you probably know what to do with from this page. So we really encourage people to go there, and if you still can't find your information, please feel free to contact me at school, and I will try to point you in the right direction or find an answer for your question. All right, so at this point, if you have questions, we'll invite you to come up and talk. I think the hot mic is the one on the right. And is that correct? Yep. And then we'll have you answer or ask your question and then head back to your seat because we might have more than a few with questions. And then we'll either have our consultants help answer them, or I can answer them, or the board can answer them. So we'll do our best to get those answers tonight. If we don't know what an answer is, we'll certainly take down your name and contact information and get back to you with an answer. So, who do we have here first?
Someone's got it first.
So Jack Schlichting, Stanton Township. So one of the clear problems is 43 less students, $430,000 less revenue. I was a little late, so I'm not going to ask you to rehash any of the building plans, but what is the plan to address it? And just a little, maybe it's fuzzy, but a little institutional history here is kind of was pitched that this and the field house was going to be part of that answer. And so I'm wondering, are we thinking that the shop and the automotive is that answer, or is there another strategy in place to bring that that gap of revenue from the state that is also impacting the budget? Thank you.
Jack, I'm not sure what your question is. Could you restate that?
Well, we lost 43 students, $430,000 in revenue. So that's impacting the year. That's why a lot of the cuts had to be made that aren't even related, and then it could cause
So
more.
how does that relate to what we're talking to about right now?
Well, it impacts expansion of the facility. I mean, are we in a need of, are we growing? I've heard Cannon Falls is growing for so long, which is not your gentlemen's and ladies' responsibility. That's the city and the townships, that's their problem. But you have to deal with what we have. But where are we headed, I guess, in the long run? What's the growth potential in students and that avenue for the need of the facilities?
Sure. I can tell you that our CTE classes are extremely full right now. and very popular because this area is a bustling trades community and manufacturing community. And so I think that's one huge piece to look at. CTE. Yeah.
Career and technical
Career
education.
and technical education.
And we're also talking about a program that gets students into and access to high-paying jobs, right? I mean, they're learning how to do this, and they can make a job, get a job, you know, very quickly after graduating. That's going to have a high income, or transfer to a 2-year community technical college and develop skill sets there to earn quite a bit of money. I mean, I see what welders make, and I should have been a welder. I would have been a terrible welder, but I mean, it pays. So I mean, I think it's that question of what's that investment in that space, and what's it beyond just not expanding just the facility, but providing a facility that also facilitates that learning.
Well, I think, wow.
I think we have opportunities, like even to like the program we have with Southeast. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that's an example of.
Yeah, our current partnership with Southeast Tech, Students Learning Advanced Manufacturing, or SLAM, has been a big boost for some of our kids' programming and the options that they have to integrate post-secondary learning in our high school atmosphere. Has been a huge boost for some of our kids here at school as well.
Oh, can you hear me? I think specific to what Jack was asking about is the ebb and flow of students in and out of the district and open enrollment, and you did have a piece on that a few board meetings ago. It's just unfortunate that we always had to deal with this, even years ago when I was on the board before. For whatever reason, students leave the district, and we're not exactly sure what all of those reasons are.
Well, and we've talked about this at numerous board meetings, but we graduated 17 more kids than we took in this year, which that happens when you have a community that, for whatever reason, doesn't have the housing or whatever else to have those kids come into the district. There's a shortage of houses right now in Cannon Falls, and that's could be a contributor of that over a period of time. The amount of open enrolled kids leave for different reasons. We have kids coming into the district from other districts, and we have kids going out. And so when you look at the reasons why specifically we've had kids leave our district because of what they feel is going to be a masking policy, and we have kids coming into our district because of what other districts in the area have done with their masking policy. So it's kind of hard to figure that out, especially when you're looking at a pandemic right now. When you talk about other reasons why people leave, it's all over the board. People have moved on, out of state because their parents got a job elsewhere. We've had people move to other local districts because, for whatever reason, they think the grass is greener on the other side. And so it ebbs and flows. The open enrollment piece that we have right now is not even close to the highest in the past 10 years, if you want to think of it from that way. So it is cyclical in and out of districts right now. People have talked about the number of kids that have left. Yeah, it's high right now, but it's not the highest we've had in 10 years. We've had kind of flows like this.
And I think the other point that Jack was asking about is what are we going to do about it? And there's nothing that we can really particularly do about open enrollment, but we've created a marketing team that really the product that comes out of Cannon Falls schools is positive. And I think the CTE shop area is adding to that product. And it's our job now to, I guess, market Cannon Falls in the school district.
Just to build upon, I think what Bill said, I think the high school was recognized for its ability to prepare students to go to a college or university. I think this is our opportunity to provide additional support necessary to sort of meet the demand of that CTE, which is that other side of what do our students do after they graduate.
Marlo Frankie. You might have answered part of this question. I've seen articles in the papers, started reviewing about different amounts of money that have been created both by the state and federal for schools, school aid on top of their normal payments. 1.3 billion in April. I think that was more COVID relief. Maybe you were speaking of COVID dollars earlier, if that's what that was. 1.2 billion over 4 years from the state, 1.3 billion from federal. And then we've got 7 point some billion surplus right now. What's being done, what has been done to go after, and what those monies, and how much have you gotten any of those other monies? Is there, what's being done to get after that? Thank you.
I don't believe the surplus has been allocated yet. No decisions have been made by the legislature as to what those additional allocations will look like. So I think it would be difficult to speculate about funds we don't know what we're receiving. And I don't know, the COVID component, I think Jeff, you spoke to that pretty well earlier. So I don't know if there's.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, what the question exactly was, what I'm guessing was around COVID dollars, which we addressed earlier. You're right about the state allocation of the surplus. That's yet to be decided by the legislature.
Do you want to clarify your question?
Well, yeah. Yeah, the April 1.3 billion COVID relief, I can see you could call those COVID dollars. The other two funds were not.
When you say 1.3 billion COVID relief, is that statewide, nationwide?
That was state.
Okay.
According to start reviewing April 14th article. The 1.2 billion over 4 years was state funds. The 1.3 billion was federal funds. Those are both for the state.
Right.
Of Minnesota. So I'm not hearing any strategy, any process how to go after those monies.
Oh, those funds have already been allocated to the school district.
Yeah.
And we've used them over the past, 2.5 years.
But the 1.2 was only allocated in, according to the article, was June 23rd, 2021. The 1.3 billion federal was in July 10th, 2021.
Right,
So-
so they need different allotments of money throughout.
So they just get allotted. Schools don't have to appeal for those.
No,
So how much of those have we gotten
Jeff,
in 2021?
There's been three levels of ESSER funds. The first one was about $88,000. Microphone? Sure. Thanks. Yep. So if we're going to pull the minutes, I guess, November 22nd was the last hold on, so I can try to pull it up. Otherwise, there have been 3 waves of ESSER funds that have come to the district to help offset some COVID-related costs. November 22nd. In terms of when the state allocates it, most of these grants are based on the application to the state. Very few districts have not applied for those funds, but they're doing it based on essentially from the original, the title grant. There are 3 waves of ESSER funds. We've also received some funds back from the county as they use all of their ESSER funds, and rather than turn it back to the state or federal, they're allowed to allocate those funds back to the school districts or the cities. So in total, you'll see on the top the revenue of additional $1.5 million of revenue to the district. There's some funds from United Way, some for a school nurse grant. Planning Foundation has given us some of their donations back to help for technology needs as kids needed access to devices during distance learning. So there are a lot of costs up there in terms of the revenue that came to the district. You'll see the last wave of funds really is that ESSER 3 funds, and that was a little less, it's 644, and 20% of that is dedicated strictly for learning loss recovery, kids that need to catch up from some maybe learning loss over the last couple of years. On the bottom, our expenditures, a lot of those are dollars that have already gone out the door. Some of them are budgeted as we go into the next 2 fiscal years. We have through fiscal '24 to spend the ESSER 3 funds. The ESSER 3 funds have a lot more strings tied to them than ESSER 1 and 2. ESSER 1 and 2, Fed got it out to the states, we got it out to schools to immediately put that into the hands of districts to get, whether it be technology or extra support for covering essential worker. It would be daycare or teachers or social distancing to reduce class sizes. So the state and the federal recognize that the district need to have some help. There are a lot of extra costs, and they pushed those funds out pretty quickly, and they were absorbed fairly quickly with expenditures that the districts had. The ESSER 3 is a little bit more targeted, and it'll be directed more towards learning loss activities, I guess, or items for the districts. So we've got budgeted about 50% of that to be spent in fiscal '22 as we go through this fiscal year, with a carryover into fiscal '23 and '24, because quite frankly, we don't know what we don't know in terms of how many more things we may have, whether it be a social distancing, a smaller class size, to have maybe an extra teacher or staff to help kids catch up, so they have maybe smaller class sizes, or more utility, or sorry, more items that they can help to catch back up on some of their learning. So I don't know if that answers all the questions, but that's the sheet that was updated for November 22nd. Most of that is pretty accurate. We have some updating to do for the next time we present this information, but those are the dollars that have been actually spent by the district already or budgeted and anticipated for the district.
So those ESSER funds you're talking about are funds that came out of these special
Correct.
funds?
Yeah, from the state, from Fed to the state.
All of those that you mentioned, it sounded like that's our total allotment, and obviously we have some donations in there. But that's the school's allotment.
And you did say that there's an application process for those.
Correct, yeah, we have to do that through their year deadlines for them. A lot is based off of the original TIE grant was the first ESSER funds. Now that we've got into the ESSER 3, they're a little bit more stringent, but districts are required to apply for those funds. Correct.
Thank you.
You got it.
Jack Schlichting again, Stanton Township. This one I'll be more specific on the project. And maybe you address this. The HVAC project is just really, I feel like the previous bond effort was not pitched appropriate. So my question on this one is, are we done with updates and are we at a state of maintenance of the system going forward? And that might be the consultant engineer guy that has to answer that one. But will we have another referendum in 5 years saying, oh, we gotta update the HVAC? I know we had problems in the grade school from the very beginning, and we addressed them at one time. We dealt with this. And so then the follow-up question is, what's coming next? It's a big institution with a lot of space. The field house has gotta be coming close to its life. What are the next things that you haven't necessarily laid out, but we have to be realistic that they're also going to be needed? Especially when general fund did technology, when general fund maybe should have been put aside to do roofs. And so I understand you've had to play a lot of taking from Peter to do Paul and shuffling things around, and so we're trying to clean the thing up, but what's coming at us?
Justin, do you want to speak a little bit about the HVAC? I have my own version, but yeah, this will finish off the rest of the district, so go ahead.
Okay, when we did the facility assessment for the building, we walked through and kind of looked at everything in totality. And the assessment is done by a group of engineers, and we try to prioritize all of the issues in the building. And priority one is what we're really trying to tackle. Right now, priority one can be anything that we think is gonna need repairs probably in 5 to 10 years, or fail within 5 to 10 years. And there's priority 2s and 3s, down the road. The first bond referendum we tried to pass a year ago, we had some of the 2 and 3s in there, but we heard, we didn't want to address those. So We are specifically looking at the HVAC priority ones for this project. There's always going to be ongoing maintenance, but we're trying to address the needs for the next 10 years. I guess just kind of leave it.
But we should be able to do that through either LTFM or within our means, I guess, if you will. But this finishes out the project from 2016 that was kicked down the road, I guess. If that's a good way to say it.
Jeff,
So you need more maintenance on here. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you to clarify what that acronym was for the audience.
So LTFM is long-term facilities maintenance. Those are dollars that districts are now getting from the state to help maintain their buildings. So what is next? And Justin just talked about that, just so that you can hear that again, Jack. Justin talked about, we do have a facility assessment that I talked about early on in the presentation that identified the highest needs, and those are the ones that we're attacking right now. And then the priority 2 and 3 are, I don't know, you know, one off the top of your head, Justin, that revolve around, I guess.
Sure. I mean, there's additional roofing, there's additional electrical needs, conduits and things, generators, and, you know, some of those are being pushed off, and we just focus on those priority ones.
Sure.
We have a list, and I know you guys have it, but I just don't have it with me.
Right, no, and that's a good reminder about the upcoming roofs. We do have LTFM funds that we can start picking apart those items and make sure that they fit within year-to-year budgets at this time. But as far as the field house is concerned, I'm not really sure. I don't know if there's a lifespan on that, just to quite answer that. Right now, I guess I don't have a good answer for that piece of it, whether there's a lifespan or not. Maybe Kraus or Justin can answer it. Tony or Justin, I guess, can answer it. Or Chad, not Tony. Sorry.
When we walked through the field house, I think there was some flooring issues, that I think we had identified, but maybe some lighting issues, but beyond that, we haven't really identified anything large, I guess, in the field house, if you will, besides kind of routine things.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, hearing none.
I just got asked this. I'm sorry. So the CCC building has been a great asset, but is the school doing the community's job? Is that facility really an asset? It's a third of a teacher to have that building there for gym space and et cetera. My question is would a teacher be more valuable than that space? I know the gym is liked, and I know the seniors use that space. I know the Red Cross, I've given blood there a ton. But those are really community things, and I don't know that my school district and school board, yes, you're a community member, you're the most important institution in the community, the largest employer, have the greatest impact. But I don't know that that's the school's job. And is there another way that those needs can be addressed and not be your burden?
It's hard to comment on that. It's kind of conjecture. We feel like the senior center and our affiliation with them is really critical to our community. And
Bob, your microphone is on. Could you make sure?
I thought I talked loud enough, Phil.
Now?
Yes.
Our relationship with the senior center has been extremely strong. And I believe that our school is our community. There's so many things that go on here, even in this facility, that aren't directly school related. We have programs here, we have concerts here. So trying to separate the community from the school just won't work for me. And your question, Jack, is one of an opinion more than anything else, and I feel like the money is well spent having that facility here, having it under us and being able to be used by the senior folks, athletic folks. I think it's a good investment for us, my opinion.
If you look at the programming in that building, you're talking birth to late retirement years, that there's many different activities that take part in that throughout their lifetime of use. The building is still viable, it still needs upkeep, obviously, but if you take that building out and you sell it or you raise it, meaning level it, trying to rebuild something in that size would be costly, to say the least. And so, you don't know what the space is gonna be like or missed until you don't have it anymore. I guess is always my opinion, but that's either or not. And maybe some people can talk and can in there for.
Yeah, I would just say, one thing that opened my eyes was, with the community center was, we built the field house and that's a great space to have, but having the community center and that gym allows the youth programs to practice at reasonable times. It opens up that space where they're not, having youngsters practicing at 9 o'clock at night. The dance team, and the district kids do an excellent job of tying up that space immediately, because they know how valuable it is. I just think, it is super important. I hate to see it go, and it is used, whether it's free enough space, or people practicing or participating in events.
So it's used in combination, school uses it, community uses it. I just, as a comment, my son does taekwondo there. So they're gonna raise their fees because they're gonna be charged more starting this year. And that's fine. Just, maybe there's more user fees that could be used to generate whatever, manage it differently. So, that comment I heard is that the seniors have a free lease on their space. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that just has to change.
I think a good summary of the community centers, it really is, like you said, Jeff, it's cradle to career, and I think it demonstrates that learning is a lifelong process, and I think to me it makes sense for it to be here in the school.
Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I will close that meeting. Thank you to those who have shown up this evening, looking for information, looking to get some justification as to why we're doing what we're doing. You saw the timetable we're on, February 8th. You can go to the school for absentees if you so choose. And other than that, folks, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Rebecca on the motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Brenda. Any other discussion? All in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are finished. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the meeting.